guys, Ben Lichtenwalner here again from modernservantleader.com. Coming to you with another resource for leaders who are especially interested in the digital space, the technology space, online sales, commerce, e-commerce, things of that nature, social media, of course. There is a lot of talk these days about SoLoMo, social, local, and mobile. I can't take credit for originating that term. I honestly don't recall who it is offhand, but there's a lot of talk out there. I'm sure if you'll Google, you'll find out. To me, there is one thing that is missing from that, and that is commerce or content. If you really don't do any kind of transactions, even if you're a philanthropy organization or a nonprofit and you're doing fundraising, it's still commerce. But if you're really an organization that is not doing any kind of sales online or any kind of commerce online, use that CO for content. So it's SoCoLoMo, social, content or commerce, local, and mobile. It's a very popular trend right now, and I'm here to give you a couple of resources you can use to analyze how you're doing in this space and use it as an ongoing dashboard for how you continue to perform in this space. So I'm going to have two different videos. One is going to be on the actual KPI tracker, key performance indicator, in case you're wondering, the dashboard itself, the numbers, the metrics behind it. And the other will be a simple PowerPoint template that you can use to take some of that analysis and roll it up to sort of an executive level presentation. Again, both of these files will be available on modernservantleader.com. The link should be in the comments or located here in the video for you to grab a copy of those. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Let me know. I'll try and get back to you quickly. So without further ado, here we go. Here is a great tool and resource for you to use on tracking SoCoLoMo, social, commerce, local, and mobile. We are going to use a scenario where we are the Twinkies company, not the Twinkies company, the Twinkies company, and we are trying to defeat the Twinkies company as though they still existed and hadn't changed ownership. So to start with, here's the overall dashboard view, but within the spreadsheet you will see first I do have a directions sheet here, so don't worry if you lose track, if you can't follow this video because I'm speaking very fast, don't worry, it's all documented here as well. Okay? So within the spreadsheet, the KPI dashboard, you've got SoCoLoMo, social, commerce, local, and mobile, or content. And each of these can be modified, but they basically have a high-level rating of how you're performing in each, as well as subcategories within each and how you're doing there. These are the scores within each of those. So for example, in social, we have networks, communication, and monitoring as subcategories. Overall, we're doing very well. We're doing better in networks and monitoring than we are in communications, and we'll see what that means when we look at it in a minute. In commerce, we are doing okay, 77%. Apparently, we're doing very good at conversion, though. Revenues, promotions, loyalty, not looking so good at all in the loyalty space, but content's doing quite well. And we'll talk a little bit about that, why, in a minute. And then local languages, the number of languages are offering, and geographies you're covering. We're doing pretty poorly there overall, but we'll talk about why. And maybe that's not such a bad thing. And then mobile applications, sites, and users, again, not doing so hot. Twinkies is not apparently a very mobile-oriented company at this time. We're only scoring 46% applications. Anyhow, we'll go through each of those details in a little bit. So the first sub-tab, you got to put in a bunch of variables. How many days are you tracking here in this report? I would recommend about 30 days. Of course, it's going to vary based on your industry and field and what you're working on, but it's going to be about 30 days. This does not actually modify any of the formulas, I don't believe, in the spreadsheet, but it is good to keep in mind when you're framing all of your scores. So you're going through remembering, wait, am I doing this for 30 days, 120 days, 90 days, whatever. Digital marketing. How much money have you spent on your digital marketing campaigns? This is your SEM, as search engine marketing. This is your ad space. This is, what are you spending online to promote your digital initiatives? Gross revenue. How much have you sold online? Again, this is not necessarily your gross revenues for your entire organization, but as it pertains to SoCoLoMo, social, commerce, local, and mobile. And then orders. The number of orders you've actually received. This is obviously important for your conversion rates. The number of unique visits. This is going to come from your Google Analytics or Web Trends, whatever tracking software you're using for web analytics. Green, yellow, and red status, so your indicators throughout when they turn green, red, or yellow. Maybe you're a perfectionist and you only want them to change green when you hit 95%. No problem, change it here and the rules will change, right? Maybe you're really just starting out, you're not feeling so sure of yourself. You don't want to beat yourself up because you're just getting started. You don't want things to turn red until you hit it say 30%. Then you just got to tie these two together. They actually should be the same rating. I think it started off wrong. So make sure these two tie, they're the same. Other than that, you're fine. I'm going to go back up and change it one more time. Okay, 60, 60 back to where it was. Now, once you have your variables set, great, you can start looking at the details. Here we are first with the social tab. You can see we have a lot of detail here. Again, I talked about the 3 major categories for your social media KPI dashboard. And we have networks, communications, and monitoring. And within each of these, you have even more details, subcategories with details, and each one's tracking. So basically, you go through and you say, okay, how are we doing? How many fans do we have on Facebook? How many fans do we have on Google Plus or followers or circles, people in our circles, however you want to frame that. LinkedIn, how many connections, how many likes per post, things like that. Pinterest, how many repins are you having? How many positives per pin? Twitter, what's your follower ratio? This is calculated, so you don't need to modify it once you have your following and followers in there. And all these details are tracked here. Now, if you don't know some of these terms, if they're surprising you, don't worry about it. I have them all here in the comments, so you can go through and read what each one is. And again, obviously, if you become more expertise at this, you might want to modify a lot of these. The key thing to remember here, as you're going through and putting in the data, you have to put weightings in. These are your weightings. Now, the default weightings will work, but based on your industry and what you're trying to do, the real key importance here is what weighting are you giving to each of these categories. So are you more concerned about being engaged across many networks, or are you more concerned about getting your content out there under communications? Do you really want to make sure you're putting a lot of new content out there on your blogs and other people's blogs? Or maybe you're just really concerned about making sure that you monitor the negative responses about your brand or products online. Whatever it is you're trying to do, make sure you have the right weightings in here. For example, right now we have monitoring, as you can see here, at 30% of the overall weight for the score. Maybe you're saying, you know what, I really don't care about if we're quick to respond online for some reason. I would urge you to rethink that pattern or strategy, but let's say that's the way you feel. Then you only want to be 10%. Now you see everything turned red in the weightings. That's because the weightings don't total up to 100%. So let's say you want to do communications more instead of the net monitoring. We dropped monitoring from 30 to 10, so we need to jump up communications 20, so this goes to 40%, and you can see all the colors go happy again. The same is true for weightings within each of the subcategories. Okay? Once you do that, it's all going to roll up under each of these tabs, and we'll now go briefly through the other tabs as well. So, and at the end of each of the KPI dashboards, I also have some comments here, some quotes. You'll see these return when we look at the PowerPoint presentation later. It's just some good data, some good quotes, metrics, analysis, indicators of why social, commerce, local, and mobile are so important in today's business, nonprofit, whatever industry you're in. They really are vital, no matter what field you're in nowadays, to be more effective at social, commerce, local, and mobile. And we'll talk about those. But that's a highlight. All the subtabs work the same, making sure you've got your weightings in there and then tracking your actual data. Remember, if you don't have a tool to automate the tracking of this data, don't worry. Excuse me, to start with, go out and just grab those top 10 or 100 and plug in the numbers. You'll get the same results. Okay? Now, going down, we also have the commerce KPIs. Again, the major categories here are conversion, revenues, promotions, loyalty, and product inventory management or content. I originally had this as content. In this case, since I'm sticking with the commerce, it's really about product inventory management. If you're not doing commerce, then there's all kinds of things you can do with content. You know, see here, I've got product imagery and advanced media per product. You might want to do instead, you know, the attributes of your products. How accurate are they online? If you're doing, you know, something like in philanthropy, it might be more about how much content do you have about your stakeholders, the people you're serving, things like that. There's all kinds of things you can do with content, tracking your web content, things of that nature. Okay. Now, moving on, we have also localization. There's not much data here. You could probably come up with some more advanced ideas, but basically I'm saying let's track the languages we have available at Twinkies and the number of geographies that we are working in. So for the languages available and the languages per post, obviously we're not doing so hot. Geography, how many, excuse me, consumers do we have registered locales for? Dynamic location, things of that nature. So again, really just tracking two things here. Now, as a Twinkies executive, I got to tell you, I'm not too worried about localization. I don't care that we've only got a 44%. Well, I might care, but I don't care as much about this as I do about the commerce and the social piece, right? Because at the end of the day, is whether or not we know something about where you're located going to significantly change whether or not you choose to buy one of my Twinkies? Probably not. But we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move into the PowerPoint. And the mobile, similar scenario here. Not a whole lot going on in mobile apps for Twinkies and junk food providers, I gotta say. But it's still important to track it and know where we're at. So we talk about applications, sites, and users, and you can see again, the logic is the same. You got to make sure you have your weightings right here. And then if you have any questions about what each of these is, there's a description for it and how you can track it. Okay? And that's it for the KPI dashboard. You can modify any of these you want. If you see that there are fields that are not bordered or they don't have borders on them, don't modify them. They're automated. You know, those are the only pieces you don't need to change. Everything else, you just put in whatever weightings you want, percentage-wise. And you put in the actual data you have, your target, and your current numbers, and then it all rolls up for you. Okay, so great. I hope you enjoy it. I hope the tool works for you. Again, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. I'll try and get back to you pretty quickly. And if you're interested in this, you like what you see and you're going to be using it, also check out the other video that I'll post shortly after this one, which will be a PowerPoint presentation that you can take some of this analysis once you're done, put it into a PowerPoint, and how you can communicate it to your other leaders, co-leaders, peers, and other members of your organization to help begin to structure your strategy around SoCoLoMo. Thank you very much, and thanks for visiting modernservantleader.com. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and remember, keep serving. Thanks a lot.